Well, good morning, everyone. I know we've got several folks that are going to trickle in here in the first minute or two of our webinar. But while we're waiting, I do want to welcome you to our webinar on technology and modern construction and best practices. My name is Traci VanDalsem. I'm the Vice President here at RedTeam and will be your host for today. But as we begin, I wanted to draw your attention to your Zoom webinar menu bar, which is probably at the bottom of your screen. But we want this to be an interactive webinar, so feel free to use that Q&A button. We are going to be checking periodically for questions that have been submitted along the way as we have our conversation this morning. So you can send in your questions and we'll try and fit those into our conversation as we're talking along this morning. And then we're also going to be putting up a few polls when we get through our presentation. We're going to have two that will pop up for you that just have to do with what we're talking about when we get to that particular slide. So we'd love to hear from you. We're going to be talking about some things that should be happening in your current day-to-day, and we'd love you to share your opinion in those polls with us as we get there. So look for those to pop up here during our presentation this morning. Well, my name is Traci VanDalsem. I'm currently serving as the Vice President of RedTeam Go, which is one of our product lines here under our RedTeam umbrella. And I wanted to just introduce myself to you a little bit this morning. I have been here with RedTeam for almost 13 years now. And prior to that was a project manager for a commercial construction company here in Nashville, Tennessee. And then I fell into construction tech. We actually onboarded RedTeam Go. At the time it was called Tasker for our company. And so I've had that real life experience of going from Microsoft products and using that to create all of my documentation throughout a construction project to technology. And then when my owner of the company decided to retire, I came to work for RedTeam software and kind of fell into it that way. But I love this software, couldn't do my job as good without it. And so I'm happy to be here helping other companies to adopt and transform their businesses by beginning with technology or continuing their technology journey. I want to introduce you to our guests today, Jay Snyder and Jon Musselman. Jon Musselman is the president and founder of J. Musselman Construction. After spending his younger years in Wake Island, Puerto Rico and the Outer Banks, Jon calls Charleston home since 1979. Jon established J. Musselman Construction to not only meet but exceed the highest levels of professionalism and integrity in the industry. As a graduate of Clemson University with a Bachelor of Science degree in Construction Science and Management, Jon worked on a variety of projects in the Southeast with a large regional construction firm before forming J. Musselman Construction in 2006. Jon has displayed significant expertise in construction management skills by successfully overseeing numerous projects throughout the Southeast, including hospitals, shopping centers, hotels, and office complexes. Jon leads his team by example and places emphasis on developing a strong positive rapport with all involved in each project. So thank you, Jon, for being here. And Jay Snyder is the president of Big Blue Innovations, a consulting firm to construction and technology companies. BBI helps companies improve management in the use of construction technologies through technology planning, software selection and implementation, data integration, part-time CEO services, typically resulting in reducing tech spend, more efficient systems, and higher employee engagement. Jay has been in the construction industry throughout his career. He has operations expertise as a senior vice president of operations of a general contractor, corporate director of planning, design, and construction for a healthcare system, founder of a pre-qualification software startup, and founder of FMI's technology and innovation practices. So thank you both for joining us this morning.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. As we go through our presentation this morning, you're welcome. Thank you, Jon. But as we go through the presentation this morning, we hope that you'll understand the current landscape of the construction industry. We're going to talk a little bit about the state of the construction industry in just a moment. We're going to explore some emerging technologies and their applications. We're going to learn how construction companies are leveraging all-in-one solutions, and we hope that you gain practical insights into building an effective tech stack. All right, you all should have seen a poll pop up, but we're going to be talking about some current trends and challenges. So if you guys will take that poll as it just pops up, we'll work that into some of our conversation as I'm giving this little spiel on our state of construction, but I do want to talk just for a moment on the construction industry in 2024, and talk a little bit about economic conditions, labor shortages, supply chain issues, and things like that. So some of the things that we've seen is that inflationary pressures have moderated a little bit here in 2024. Yet the cost of materials, labor, and interest rates have remained elevated, which is affecting our profit margins and project timelines. However, we've got some demand for construction infrastructure, housing development persists, urban areas and regions are undergoing some revitalization. So we're seeing some opportunities there. Our sector performance in the commercial construction and industrial spaces is looking good, especially for those projects tied to renewable energy and technology sectors. Government investments in infrastructure, clean energy, and affordable housing, such as the U.S. Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, continues to provide opportunities for contractors. We're still seeing a skilled labor gap. Labor shortages remain one of the industry's top challenges today, with an aging workforce and fewer younger workers entering into the trades. That's continuing to be a problem that we're seeing. Companies are increasingly investing in apprenticeship programs and technology solutions to bridge that gap, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. We are seeing a special emphasis in improving safety and working conditions. Many companies are incorporating advanced safety technologies such as wearable and AI-based monitoring and using those on their job sites. Supply chain continues to be a little bit of a challenge. We've had some supply chain disruptions. While easing slightly, they continue to affect the availability and cost of key materials such as steel, lumber, and concrete. Construction companies are increasingly adopting some prefabrication and local sourcing to mitigate those risks. And there's a growing emphasis on sourcing sustainable materials and reducing waste as a broader effect to meet environmental targets and reduce the industry's carbon footprint. As far as technology and innovation, construction is seeing a surge in the adoption of technology and improving efficiency, accuracy, and sustainability. Key trends include drones for site monitoring, 3D printing, which is super cool. I love 3D printing. I think it's really interesting, and other modern construction techniques. We're hearing buzz all the time about AI and automation. Artificial intelligence, robotics, and automation are being used to streamline processes from project management to equipment operation, helping to offset labor shortages and improve productivity. In the construction industry, it's expected to grow moderately throughout 2025, bolstered by infrastructure investments, technology advancements, and increased focus on sustainability. However, as companies will need to continue addressing these workforce shortages, material costs, and regulatory demands to thrive in a rapidly evolving market. So we've got some interesting things that are happening in 2024 and an interesting outlook into 2025. But John and Jay, wanted to ask you guys what types of project opportunities you've had in 2024 and what you've seen personally in your areas. John, you want to start with that?
Sure. So speaking for Jay Musselman first and then the rest of the industry, for us, we're seeing a variety of different project types. We don't do a lot of retail, but we're seeing some retail. We're doing several churches right now, a lot of medical again, a lot of general office stuff, specialty type projects like vet clinics. We just wrapped up or in the process of wrapping out final closeouts on a vet clinic right now. Had another one earlier this year. And then we're also seeing more of the gut type, completely gut a building and exterior rehabs, new windows, new roofs, new facade, and then complete rebuilding of the interior as we have a little bit less developable land here in Charleston. Gotcha. We're also still seeing a good bit of projects at the municipality level and the state level. Like we do a lot of work at the Citadel, College of Charleston, MUSC, and that ranges everything from classrooms to laboratories to you name it type stuff.
Awesome. Jay, what have you seen with the companies that you've been working with lately as far as specific project types that are popping up in your area?
We work with contractors of all shapes and sizes, from East Coast to West Coast, GCs, trade contractors, folks as large as 8 billion, as small as 5 million. And it's been really interesting to watch the market and kind of understand where they're working, because it's just been such a bull run for so long in the construction industry. I was listening to a podcast the other day that talked about how international construction markets are looking on the U.S. and our building cycle. That's really, been going strong for, let's call it 8 years, 6 years, something like that. But, this massive run in the U.S. In continued demand is something that's really not felt in other areas, of the world. And it's quite interesting. I think that what's happening with economic policy, fiscal policy right now, um, I, I I hope will continue to bolster, the continued expansion across sectors. I know that we have some clients that are almost overwhelmed with the amount of infrastructure projects happening, particularly around wastewater and water treatment, but also
Mm-hmm.
even in those other commercial sectors going strong. And what's been funny to see from our vantage point is, or interesting to see, is that these companies have been so busy for so long that as they look internally, as they look at things like their office space, they realize we need more space. We don't have time to go look for space. They find that they need to recruit and hire more folks, but you can't find those folks, and you can't even find the time to put together a good campaign to go get those folks. And
Yeah.
even when it comes to technology, they're using legacy systems or disparate systems, and they know they want to do better. They know tech needs to be a part of the solution, but they're having a hard time, finding the time and the space to be able to address those internal projects. So it's been interesting to see them be so successful, but still sort of allow things kind of inside their businesses, maybe take a back seat to, to all the work that needs to get done in the field.
Yeah, and then I want to go back and look at our poll question. We had an answer that came in I thought was interesting. So our poll question was, what current construction trends and challenges are impacting your business most? And one of the responses was business development. So um, taking that into consideration, you just mentioned that there are some construction companies that have been kind of flooded with project, or maybe they've found a swim lane and they've kind of stayed in that swim lane for an extended period of time. But what advice maybe do you guys have for our audience today for business development? Maybe if we want to branch into a new segment or something new, like what's a good way that you guys have seen or experienced with your companies branching into maybe a new area of construction that you haven't been in before, or bolstering up what you love to do? If you love to do those retrofits, John, like how do you get your foot in the door with some of those things and work on business development?
A lot of our business development is repeat clients and referrals. We've got a core group of clients who we work specifically for them, and the client can be the end user, or we also have a handful of brokers that we do a lot of work for who bring us into different type projects. As Jay was saying, there's a lot of work out there right now, and you could certainly jump into all kind of new markets if you're inclined to do so. For instance, we don't do infrastructure work, not really planning on doing infrastructure work, but we've seen within our other segments, like take offices, for example, we see ongoing opportunities there. As a side note right now, we're currently constructing office space for 3 different large residential builders here in the Tri-County area, in the Charleston area, which is pretty amazing to think that 3 of the larger builders here are all enthusiastic enough about what's coming their way that they're expanding their offices right now. So that kind of became an unexpected niche for us. And we're actually going out of market with one of our clients now to do an office for one of these companies who we've developed a relationship with, who said, hey, we need to expand in another market. Will you guys go there with us? Like I said, a lot of us repeat business, repeat clients, referrals. And then how do, somebody helps us open the door to one of these clients. How do we take care of
Yeah.
them? And that's where our practices and our processes come into being. We try and lead them into some pre-con roles, help them establish some budgets, particularly if they're new to Charleston and not sure what the market forces are here, and help them establish the right price points for them to be competitive with their clients.
Yeah, wow. That's really exciting though to hear that your three largest contractors in your area are expanding. That's always good news to
Mhm.
hear. Jay,
Yeah.
how about you?
So the easy answer here, but the most expensive answer would be through M&A, right? Go ahead and buy a firm that's in a particular geographic market or sector that you want to operate in, and then of course after that you need to remember that there's a bit of the challenge of business integration and absorbing them into the business. So that aside, let's be a little bit more practical in how you might be more measured and approach growth in your company. So we have a client. I'll give as an example. Mechanical contractor, well known in their market, have a lot of long-standing established clients. And they realized that they weren't really managing those accounts as well as they should be, meaning there wasn't enough crosstalk happening between the project side of the business and the service side of the business. So they started looking at ways. They started with process, which is always where you should start, around how can we be more deliberate around discussing our clients together and around making sure that we're identifying opportunities either on the project side or the service side by doing some more crosstalk. And then they've of course elevated that conversation, and one of the reasons we were brought in was to think about technologies that can support that, so things like customer relationship management, right? CRM. This is all to say that I think, in really to John's point, your clients have so much demand that you may not necessarily be aware of all of the opportunities within your existing client base, because it can be very difficult to capture those opportunities when traditionally in construction, being a relationship-based business, you hear about those opportunities when you pick up the phone and you call those clients from time to time, or stop by their office, or when a PM or a superintendent in the field happens to pick up on something. But there's maybe a more deliberate way, a more effective way to stay in tune with what your clients' needs are, and having some technology and some process to nudge you, to have those touch points more often. I think most contractors would find that if they're looking to maybe do more work with the types of people that they prefer to work with, it's just a matter of being more deliberate and having process and structure around pursuing those clients and those opportunities.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you all for taking that poll, giving us a good topic of discussion here. Um, how have you seen technology applied on construction projects within your own business or businesses? I know Jay, from the consulting side of the industry, you work with a lot of general contractors, and you primarily work with helping them integrate their tech, as well as go through some mergers and acquisitions. But how have you seen technology applied on projects today?
It's funny because there's still a large part of the market that aren't using sophisticated tools. They're still using legal pads and Excel, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. It's worked for the longest time, and it now, to John's point, they've got this tremendous growth happening, or maybe they're stretched a little thin. Maybe it's a little bit more decentralized than it was in the past. So we're seeing some basic blocking and tackling helping, right? So maybe even upgrading the way that they're handling shared knowledge, project management of documents, and that sort of thing. Just very basic blocking and tackling with still a large part of the market that haven't been on a consistent system. But the other thing that we're seeing happening is a real interest. You mentioned AI a little earlier briefly, and we're not into Futurama, but really the future is kind of here when it comes to things available, with AI tools. And so this interest in trying to figure out a way to organize their data, aggregate their data, and provide, the holy grail is to provide some sort of an early warning system, right? Or I also call it sometimes synthetic experience, because we do have folks that were promoting earlier than we have in the past. Maybe they don't have the experience or necessarily the tenured intuition that folks in those positions would have had in decades past. and that's okay. These are energetic, intelligent, successful people. So this idea of like synthetic experience, a way for technology to be able to elucidate or to arm them with some more data to make better decisions, is something, frankly, that even smaller contractors, both at trades and GCs, are interested in trying to leverage. The dilemma that we see there is that they need to make sure they take the time and take a step back to organize that information and make sure they have some standards and expectations of how they're going to use it. So it doesn't directly answer your question, but it does point to maybe a leapfrog moment of where contractors that would typically matriculate through use of different softwares solutions can actually maybe jump forward by thinking about, the use of large language models and organized data in a way that maybe we hadn't thought of or had the opportunity to adopt in the past.
Yeah, no, I think that that's really important, because it is a little bit of a learning curve, especially if they are using some traditional methods, and we get those so ingrained. Sometimes when we get to thinking about technology, we can start to bite that off in smaller chunks than taking a massive leap forward. We can use some of the tools
Sure.
today in smaller bits and pieces to work our way into getting to the finish date or to the end of, everything's changing all the time so fast. And there's going to be things that come up along the way and make what we use seem outdated, 2 years from now. So, but yeah, I agree. We can start to use a little bit, AI is everywhere and it's in a lot of different things. And so how can we just, if let's say that we want to start picking up on AI and we just start there, start seeing how that can adapt processes and give us some new processes. We can say, hey, here's a little bit about my business. Here's the process I want to improve. Here's what we do today. What can I use to improve that? And it can help us with implementing some new process even. So that's interesting to think about there. But John, how have you seen some technology applied within your own business? What are you all doing right now?
Tracy, so I'm sitting here. I've got 3 computer monitors in front of me. I'm on my cell phone with my earbud in, thinking about your question, and thinking really just how rapidly it has really changed. We've been in our office that we're in now 4 years. When we built our previous office in 2011, we actually built a plan room within the office. We still had subs who came in to look at paper blueprints. We haven't had subs come in to look at paper blueprints in at least a decade now. It's all PDF or a link or a Dropbox link or whatever. So,
Yeah.
we've seen that rapid industry-wide change, and really that's all of our subs. We don't use a fax machine anymore. Everything's digital, everything's electronic. We're seeing more and more, of course, we've seen smartphones for a decade plus, but we're seeing more and more tablets on the project with the trades. It's not unusual to see even a very small subcontractor pull out a tablet of some sort and look at something there on the job site. Up until probably a decade ago, not even a decade, 7, 8 years ago, all of our superintendents carried a little digital camera and would drop off the chip once every couple of weeks for someone here to download them and file them away. Now they're taking them on their phones and they're shooting them right through a RedTeam link into a project file, or they're texting them. It's not uncommon for a superintendent to text me and say, you have 5 minutes, and I'll reply back, yeah, call me or FaceTime me, or text me a picture and then say, call me on this when you have a second. So we see a lot of that type stuff. I'm working on 2 projects right now. One, we did a full LiDAR scan on a 55-year-old building. When we were there, in and out of there in 20 minutes. And from that 20-minute scan, they did about 2 weeks worth of field work and generated PDF drawings, generated DWG files, generated a bunch of pictures, dimensions, you name it, a whole 9 yards. Another project we're working on, a group of my clients are looking to buy an existing 80-year-old building in downtown Charleston, and we had some questions about the roof, and they said, no problem, we'll send one of our admins over there tomorrow. And they went over there and flew the drone over it and sent out a video and a bunch of pictures of the roof the next day. We're seeing both stuff within our organization, within our clients, Another big
Mhm.
thing that we've seen, particularly since COVID, the advent of Zoom and Teams meetings and all that, we're seeing
Mhm.
more and more of our local municipalities that where we do design review boards or architectural review boards or whatever you want to call it. We're seeing a lot more of those. I've been talking with a client on and off this morning from the West Coast who's doing the first project here in Charleston. They're asking about submissions, and all the submissions are now electronically through a portal. But then the meetings where they, 3, 4, 5 years ago, they would have had to have somebody come to Charleston to meet. They're all Zoom now. They're all Zoom or
Yeah.
Teams or whatever, which is, it's a great time savings and a great use of everybody's time. On the flip side, it accelerates these projects exponentially, which is, then becomes the tougher thing because you're constantly racing. But it's a great tool, the way that we're using technology to expedite our processes.
Well,
To John's point, like when I was back in operations, which was, it seems forever ago, but maybe not all that long ago, but through the 2000s, in even into the early 2010s when I was on the operations side, even then we were still sort of throwing bodies at our problems, right? You need to work faster, throw a second shift on. You need to work even faster, work the weekend. And frankly, that's just not available to us anymore. We've maximized that. We are already working the second shift. We are already working weekends, right? And so, and there's no other folks sitting on the bench, waiting to get more overtime that you can pull in. So it has been kind of I think out of necessity that you see this adoption of tech, and the way that John's just like beautifully explained, we see tech happening across all phases of project delivery. So I think it's been born out of necessity. I think that necessity was initially, and if we think about like 2016, 17, 18, when tech R&D was really happening in a massive way, we had big ambitions and then we're kind of let down, sort of, got our expectations sort of readjusted. And then we found the solutions that were actually legitimate, fully built out solutions that could provide value. And now we're back on sort of the on-ramp to continue to improve the way we do product delivery or the lack of resources by using tech. And I think that we've kind of learned from that. I guess I'm just wanted to take an opportunity just to say, it's been really great to see how the industry's kind of matured in the way that they approach technology, not necessarily chase the shiny object unless they specifically have decided they want the shiny object, knowing that it might take a little while to get the time to value. I think that's been an interesting shift in the market over the last, I'd say, probably 3 years.
Well, and seeing the tech market come up with innovative tools that solve the gaps that we need. We have a labor shortage. How are we going to overcome that?
Absolutely.
We have heavy waste of materials on the job site. How are we going to overcome that and watch these really cool technologies be built out of the need that we're seeing that's been a persistent need over years and years. So I think that's really interesting. Interesting.
We see it in our work. I mean, one of the top solutions that we get asked about a lot of times is, funny enough, resource management around like HR, labor scheduling, time tracking, time and attendance. Again, to your point, to continue to get at that problem.
Right.
Jay, you mentioned a minute ago, in our industry, it has been for years and years, throw more at it, throw more people, throw more money, throw more shifts, whatever. And, what I find myself a lot of times thinking about these days is sometimes the technology highlights that we can't throw more stuff at it. Like some of our vendors, like our door vendors particularly, when we release final shop drawings, we approve them, we get confirmation within a couple of days when it's coming. And it's not going to get any better than that. They've got sophisticated scheduling systems, and if they have a breakdown, it's gonna push out. But you can't really improve that date because they're already running max. They're already running however many shifts and how many people. They can't just throw 10 more people and accelerate it. So the technology is there on our side that we see the scheduling, but unfortunately, sometimes you just can't do anything about it.
Yeah, true.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna segue us just a little bit and talk a little bit about executive presence and how we come about getting these technologies ingrained in our businesses and just the power that executives have in being at the forefront of their company's adoption of some of this technology and being able to use data to make faster decisions. And by being able to make decisions faster, that just helps to inspire trust within the organization, because now we have a clear communication path. We have a calm person. We cast vision, and then leading by example. But what has your experience been as your John? I know for you personally, for your business, and helping to lead the forefront of adopting technology within your own company, and then Jay, as you're helping companies to adopt technology, how do you see the executives at the company playing a pretty vital role in that process?
John first.
Sure.
Sure. You know, I think part of it, you have to make the time, right, in order to do some stuff. Then you have to do some experimenting. As we here at Jay Musselman have made our shift really over, I'm going to say, a decade, from legal pads and Excel, and don't get me wrong, we still use plenty of both of those also. But as we've made the shift to some all-in-one type softwares, we've made the decision. You know what, we're going to take this component of it and we're going to work on this. We're going to push this part down the road because, frankly, we just don't have the resources or time to try and do all those items at one time. So some experimenting, does this work? Does our process work with it? Do we need to revamp that process? Do we need to abandon that process and recreate it? So you have to move on to experiment. You have to make the time to do that. Sometimes it just seems easier to keep going the way you've been going because you feel like you don't have the time to try something new, but you have to make that time in order to try it. And then you have to communicate that to the overall team.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that we hear a lot, as we're here, we are a software company. We're in the process of helping companies adopt technology. I think that's one of the things that we hear most frequently is that it's faster for me to do it the old way. I can do it the old way so much faster because there is a learning curve into adopting technology that is a real pain point, and it's a part of change management that organizations have to go through. So what you just said is really true. We hear that quite a lot. But Jay, how about you?
I mean, I think that when it comes to executive presence related to tech initiatives, I think there are opportunities to get early wins, and I think that that's really important, especially if you're an organization that's maybe had a couple of false starts with tech or fumbled the ball a little bit. Look for an early win or two. That early win doesn't necessarily need to be a tech, a new tech solution that you're onboarding. It could be just getting inclusion in the conversation, but I think for the long road, going slow to go fast makes a lot of sense here. I think you can actually make some pretty quick progress if you almost don't intend to make quick progress. Meaning, take the time to get that executive alignment. Make sure that you understand where you're going and why you're going in that direction. Tech should play a major part of strategic objectives for the business, for sure, but also handling project or operational level problems too. And I think that it doesn't stop with the executive alignment. I think that it's important to make sure that you're getting as close to the front end users as you can involved in ideating, in feedback, in the review and selection of potential solutions that you're pursuing. And it's all important. You also got to remember, like, these folks at the end of the day, they have a job to do. They have their tasks. They've always done them that way. And when we pursue a new technology solution that may ultimately be better for them and for the company, you need to remember to explain to them what's in it for them, right? Because there's going to be a period of disruption, a period of inefficiency that happens, and you need them, on the team making it happen. So that answering the WIFM is really important. I also think it's important when you're pursuing tech as a company to realize that as much as you're going to want to standardize, you also probably have nuances inside the company where you're going to need to allow those one or two people to maybe use something unique for how they do their work, right? Now, ultimately, we've seen success in consolidation of the tech stack, simplicity of the tech stack, and that we believe that should be, one of the goals, not just to continue bolting on and having 60 some solutions in play. By the way, the average contractor has about 35 construction technologies in use, which is a lot of technology to be able to manage and a lot of subscriptions to keep up with. But ultimately, the executive presence of getting that team alignment and providing the resources to pursue the technology initiatives that you want to pursue and getting that momentum going. We've seen a couple of instances with clients where they just can't seem to find time in the day or the week to handle these initiatives, and so they never really quite get started. And folks don't think that they're serious about it, so they lose interest, and you keep on doing what you've always done. So that's that. I think those are important ways for the executive presence and the executive team to be a part of the tech conversation and really kind of lead the business down that path.
Yeah, so it's more from an executive standpoint, keeping the team motivated to keep going. But I heard what you said too about you have to get individual contributor buy-in to the technology so that the company is adopting it and that they understand the benefits that it's going to bring to the company and to their day by adopting the technology. And those are very good that real life hurdles.
We have a
when you're
couple of clients. We have a couple of clients we've worked with where there's been, whether it's a CEO or the COO, in a couple of different instances where they were extremely tech savvy and they knew how to solve a problem with technology, and they went down the path of really taking their own time with a very small team, and in one case developing a proprietary solution, and in another case going down the road to find an off-the-shelf solution. And it's not that identification of the problem was off target. It's not that the solution that they've decided to move forward with was off target, but when they came to the rest of the team and told them what they were doing and what the business was going to do, people were sort of beside themselves. They had to take a minute, more than a minute, to just kind of understand what is this that we're doing. And boy, I would have liked to be a part of it. If you're telling me that I need to work differently or I need to, do this new thing. So I think it's really important to make sure that you don't like overly influence as the executive in your business.
right, bring people along, bring people into the conversation, create a committee of stakeholders that are coming together to help make the decisions to move the company forward. That's really important.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit here about how software helps to prevent some common issues that we have in the industry. So we see a lot of issues around contract compliance, making sure that the scope of work that we are building our estimates off of, making sure that scope of work gets into our contracts and making sure that trickles into our subcontracts. So that's one big area. Enhancing the accuracy in specifications, improving communication, all communication, job site communication, interoffice communication, communication with third parties. We've got all kinds of communication challenges during the process of a project. Streamlining workflows, getting some more efficient processes in place, and then providing some visibility and transparency for all parties involved. But those are some of the common issues I know that we see as a technology, as a software company. These are some of the problems that we're faced with on a construction setting that we're trying to solve. Is this true for you guys, or are there even more here that we don't have bulleted that are current issues that software is really helping to solve for our construction companies?
I think you really hit the nail on the head in using the software. I'm thinking particularly like invoices that would come in from the field, and the process of handling a piece of paper, who knows how many times, 8, 9, 10 times before it's finally filed away in a box that nobody's going to ever see again in our lifetimes or something. And I think how, that was, even though we started, like I said, 7, 8 years ago, moving towards some more software all-in-one type approaches, we really started off more on some of the contractual stuff, the submittals and stuff like that. We moved some of the finance stuff in a little bit later in bits and pieces. But, thinking of how the stuff comes through now and how we've rebuilt our workflow and our internal processes. So say when the subcontractor pay-up comes in, how it goes through, and going back to bullet point 1, the contract compliance, before it goes through approvals, it's, we're making sure the lien release is there, the correct insurance is there, and it's built into that system for that. You know, communications, we like everybody has current information all at the exact same time. You know, everybody can go in and see the most current set of plans. They can go in and see current RFIs. They can see status of their submittals. And that also builds accountability. You know, you can go through and see, oh, I turned my submittal in 3 weeks ago, and you can see, you know, that somebody's clicked on it so many times, but not done anything with it. Or we see a subcontract's been sent out through DocuSign, and it kind of gets bounced around an office. You see 5 or 6 various people have clicked on it, but nobody's signed it. And you know, and you can help figure out what's going on there. What do we need to do to get it executed? You know, the accountability aspect is great. The fact that everybody has access is great. And then the timeliness of it. You know, I'm sitting here this morning at my computer making the day a work day, and I'm bouncing submittals back and forth to a company on the other side of the state. You know, they got them 5 minutes later, not in 3 days or 4 days or whatever else. So.
That's awesome. Jay, what are your thoughts or insights?
Yeah, I'll jump in here too. I think you know, what we continue to see with our clients in terms of things that software can address are things like inconsistent processes in the business. Everyone knows how to get to it's sort of there's different means and methods to achieve the end state, but there are certain things inside your company that you want people to do the same way for consistency, so that you can see the anomalies earlier. So I think, you know, that is an area where sort of software can certainly help to create some stickiness or adherence to a company's consistent processes, especially where the technology automatically supports that workflow, sort of forcing a process, if you will. But also just the general access to information and versioning, by the way. There still seems to be a struggle with making sure that everyone's using the right documents in the right version, even if they have access to it. So it's funny. This is a little bit ad lib here, but we're a little far along here now as an industry, and realizing that we should adopt software. And so some companies, like I said before, have 3-4 dozen solutions. So one of the common issues with that software can prevent or can address is better managing all the software that's in use, if you will, right? Because on a typical project, you may have a project accounting system, you may have a separate change order issues management system, a separate system handling RFI submittal specifications and drawings. And so now you've got 3, 4, or 5 different solutions that not only inside your team they're using, but your subcontractor partners are also using, right? And that can be very difficult to figure out if you don't have notifications set up right. And if you haven't become numb to notifications, it becomes difficult to pick up on a change happened over here or I'm needed over there in the software. It can be, we've almost by solving a problem, we've created new problems. You know what I mean?
I love what you just said about becoming numb to the notifications. It's like the real world of mom, mama, you know, like we hear that so much that like I don't hear the ding that my meeting is supposed to start. I don't hear the ping that I just got a notification that I need to go notarize this bill. You know, things like that we just become numb to the noise. And then we think that the software doesn't provide us with the tools that it really does, because, oh, we didn't realize that that's what that ding was. We didn't realize
Yes.
that's what that
Yes.
email message was. Or maybe I'm sending all of these email notifications to a separate inbox so that they don't clutter, but I'm not going to that folder in my inbox to look at the communication that's coming in. So you're so right. You're so right.
Well, Traci, just before this webinar, I had a note pop up in my toolbar about Adobe notifications, and I had the option to indicate whether or not I wanted to continue these notifications or stop these notifications. What do you think I did? Stop notifications. Right. So I better log into Adobe now every now and then and make sure they're not missing an important message. I'm sure I'm not, but it's things like that we're doing every day. I'm opting out of things. In fact, I think I spend probably a very large part of my day just opting out of things.
Right. How many times are we going into
You know,
just our email and wiping out the junk and unsubscribing from things because it's so much noise?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
I'm looking at a report on my desk right now that Shannon put on here right before the webinar started, which is a report of all the RedTeam approvals that I've missed in the last week that I haven't gone through and signed off on. So she does that because, like you said, I look through my inbox and I've got, however many approvals, notifications, and you don't, somehow you miss 5 or 6 during the course of the week. So,
Yeah.
Yep, that's true.
Don't ask me how many unread emails I have in my inbox, John. We can't go there. This is being recorded.
all right. Yep.
I don't want to see the little red circle that comes up with how many things I have to do. Oh, that's funny. Well, everybody, you just saw another poll come up, our second poll here, asking who's had the internal debate at your company of going to an all-in-one system. So let us know that. We're going to talk a little bit about that now. But we're going to talk here on the real world application of technologies that can help to streamline system integration, avoid technology overcomplication, gradually transition into all-in-one solutions, and having tailored solutions that fit your unique individual needs. We've touched on some of these things a little bit already, but Jay, I wanted to see if you would talk a little bit about these first 2 points on streamlining system integration and avoiding technology overcomplication.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, as we segue into this sort of debate of all-in-one versus system of systems, I think we all acknowledge and realize that the perfect situation is to find the one system that does everything, right? In reality, there isn't one system that's going to do ERP, accounting, HR, PM, so on and so on, and fleet management, inventory management, whatever it might be, right?
Oh
But
man,
the
that'd be
idea
the holy grail right there if we could find that thing.
be amazing. It'd be amazing. But the thing is, it would probably only work for one company because there are so many different variables in play, right? So to that point, the idea we believe should be to try to consolidate as much as possible without making too many trade-offs, right? So it's not that necessarily you can have the one system, but trying to reduce it and try to come to fewer systems until you reach a point to where the trade-offs, the benefits just not worth the trade-off, right? So when you think about that, it's just kind of important to know what you are as a business and how you leverage technology as an organization. When it comes to things like systems integration or even just implementation in general of a system, I think as you're looking at onboarding maybe larger sort of pseudo all-in-one systems, it's really important to make sure that you go down this road of, we call them swim lanes, of spending time on configurations, spending time on those additional third-party integrations that need to be a part of that implementation, looking at data migration planning, of course training, and then the overall UAT and experience of going live, officially going live. So when you think about like systems integration, if you can't find that elusive total all-in-one, the other thing I'd say is it's time to start thinking about creating a common data environment where you have your systems pushing and pulling into a common database or set of connected databases so that you can create that single source of truth and better manage that data for, let's say, more advanced analytics, or as you go continue to go down the road of improving your use of technology, if you need to offload certain technology solutions that you can more easily, I should say, nothing's ever easy, unplug something and plug something back in, of course, with the whole point of having few solutions feeding into one or two major databases, so that you can have that systems integration happening and data flow occurring between systems like you really need it to. And then if you can kind of pursue that, where can you have consolidation in your tech stack? And then once you've identified where you can have consolidation, how can you make sure that you have data fidelity among your systems via a common data store? I think that's how you start achieving this streamlining of your systems, and then this avoiding of complication in your tech stack that we're talking about here.
Yeah. John, I wanted to have you discuss a little bit about your transition into an all-in-one system and how maybe the pandemic pushed you a little bit harder over the line of full adoption. But I know you've got such a great story. I wanted to have you share a little bit about your story of technology adoption.
Sure. So So as I said, we probably started looking fairly hard at all-in-one systems about a decade ago, somewhere in early 2015. And it was a little bit overwhelming at first, because you're thinking, oh my gosh, every single one of these spreadsheets and processes goes away and we have to learn something new. And so it took us a little bit of time to realize, we don't have to do that overnight. We can research it and we can implement it as time goes on. So we selected RedTeam, and I think we first started using RedTeam in early 2017, and we were using it really more for project management stuff, subcontracts, document control. Document control is a huge thing for us with the uploading of the drawings and sending out the links and making sure everything was current. And then, COVID hit in March of 2020, and it upended our world just like everybody else's. And when COVID hit, I mean, unlike a lot of industries, we were running super hard and it just accelerated. So we now had this issue with everybody working from home or working remote, not enough people, can't get materials. We're doing more work than we've ever done. And how do we process invoices and payments? So we quickly jumped in with both feet on everything. We eliminated paper daily reports, went to the electronic daily reports. We eliminated pictures and went to pictures via the links. We started doing, Zoom meetings and stuff. And we had a couple of fails. We started off processing every receipt we had, and I mean gas receipts and 38-cent receipts from the hardware store via DocuSign. I love DocuSign. That is not the way to do it. I mean, it would take a PM an hour to go through and code 15 invoices.
Right.
So we kind of worked on it, and it took us a little bit longer to get the financial side on board, probably a year to really figure out how and why, and rework our workflows and get all of our superintendents on board. And we're still going. One thing for us is we want to take the next step on the financial side, and we want to roll out with our subcontractors to start having them upload their own pay applications for us, help us eliminate some of the checks and balances there by virtue of they have to upload the correct insurance certificate and the lien release at the get-go. But when I look at all this stuff, we have 3 admin people in the office right now, and we had 3 admin people when COVID hit, and we're doing like 60% more work with the same amount of admin people. All of our project managers are doing more work, and it's not just more work. They're more complicated, more complex projects. And, one of the earlier things we were talking about, some of the issues in construction, and one thing that we're seeing, maybe with all the runoff of work and higher interest rates, our clients have to deliver products sooner, is we're seeing accelerated schedules. Everything is just right now. And there's really no way we could do it with our old legal pads and Excel solutions.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, right? Is getting the processes streamlined. And I love what you said about the gradual move that you made, realizing that you don't have to do everything all at once. You can start somewhere and then continue to implement different parts and pieces. Jay, I know that you've thrown out some statistics in the past when we've talked about, we have a lot of technology that we do implement. We've got upwards of between 30 and 100 different programs that we use to solve whatever the case may be. And then there is a percentage statistic of usage of each of those technologies that you've thrown out in the past. But do you have that top of mind on, if we have adopted several of these different technology tools and our percentage of use of those on average?
Well, I keep on trying to be hopeful, Tracy, but every time we do more and more projects, I think our average mean on that continues to go down on the system of systems kind of approach, right? Because what you end up happening is, like I was mentioning before, while you may have nuances in the business where 1 or 2 people need to have a particular tool, what happens is, and we have clients like this where they just want to let anyone use whatever they want. And so you have maybe 1 or 2 people over here, 1 or 2 people over there on these solutions. But even still, I would say, let's say that you have fewer solutions, but you didn't go down the right path of including the end users in the use of those systems. We've seen adoption rates of enterprise technologies when it isn't done right as low as like 30% adoption. Think about that for a minute for such a large solution. So it's important the process that you proceed to go down that road. But when we think about contractors that maybe aren't going through consolidation, and you have, let's say, those 30 to 60 solutions that you're using inside of your company, yeah, those utilization rates are pretty abysmal, actually. Usually they're sort of haphazardly kind of used. There's no real consistency or policy around when to use certain tools. In fact, many times with clients that we work with, it says if they would just do something as simple as list the technologies in use and list a suggestion of when to use them, that would be a major improvement. But it just goes to speak to the complexity of all of the process that comes with the complexity of a tech stack. But no, to your point, the usage rates get pretty down into like the 10 to 15% range when you start having an overly built tech stack.
And one of the things that I was why I wanted that statistic from you is to say that you get comfortable, right? You're going to implement it. You start, you get going, you get to that 10 to 15% adoption. We've learned what we
Yeah.
set out to learn in the first part of the implementation, and you have to keep going. Okay, what else am I not using? What is the next section that I can tackle? And okay, over the next 3 months, let's focus on these things and really get these ingrained into the company, and then keep going. Don't get stuck on we know what we know and this is good enough, but
You
there's
bet.
so much more that the software can do for you to make you more efficient, to help reduce your time and energy spent, to reduce your cost spent on things when you continue to utilize the technology. So it's that pursuit of, hey, we've got to keep going. There's more to do here. So
Well,
more
let me
things that
let,
yeah.
yeah, let me drop a note on that. So when we have contractors that feel like they've done a pretty good job with implementation, let's take one of the best cases, right, where they think that they've got fairly good adoption. And what does fairly good adoption mean? Let's say they have 70 to 75% of the company adopting the solution. I got to tell you that extra 25% generally tends to be achieved through training. And it's kind of to your point, make them aware of all that the solutions are capable of doing, give them access to training resources to really get in the system and use it like it's intended to be used. And so you can achieve that last 20% or so just with training, just by making sure people are aware of how to use those systems.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. This has been such a wonderful conversation. We hope that you all have enjoyed this. We could keep going. I think with the three of us in the room, we could keep going on this topic. We could talk more and share more stories about how companies have continued to adopt technology. I'm going to do a shameless plug. Of course, we are RedTeam. We have several software solutions that if you're looking for a construction project management software solution that has integrations with accounting softwares, we have great options for you. So please keep in touch with us here at RedTeam. I'm going to share some QR codes here with you in just a moment on how to get in touch with all three of us here. But we hope that you've enjoyed this webinar in talking a little bit about the role in construction technology and how that's really changing our construction industry. There's lots of technology. Good places to start are with an all-in-one solution. So within RedTeam, we do help to streamline your documentation. As contractors, we love our paper. And so one of the things that we do is help to streamline the paperwork process for you and the documentation and the control of the flow of those communications with the document. Real-time communication and collaboration between the office and the job site. We help to automate those repetitive tasks. We talked a little bit about, Jay, you had a great comment on when we get into a process and we work that process and we do the same process each time, that helps to highlight the anomaly that comes on. And so that's one of the things that we like to do here within our software, is make sure that nothing's falling through the cracks. It's a repeatable process we're going to follow every time. And then it provides us with that real-time data to help us make those quick decisions and move forward. If you want to learn more about RedTeam, please scan our QR code here. If you're looking at adopting a construction project management technology solution, we would love to get you into a demo. And if you'd be interested in talking with Jay and Jon, you've got QR codes for Big Blue Innovations and for Jay Musselman. And I'm sure that either one of them would be happy to talk with you about industry challenges that you're experiencing and experience that they have had that has overcome that challenge. So I want to thank you all for spending a portion of your day here with us during our webinar today. And I want to share a big thank you, Jon and Jay, for both participating with us and being here with us today and exploring this conversation a little bit more.
It was great. Thanks, Traci.
Thank you, Traci. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. We hope you have a great rest of your day and stay tuned for some more Red Team webinar information coming your way.